Good morning. Hello. Welcome by this Hello Monday LinkedIn Live. I have to say it's quite spontaneous live, so today I want to contemplate a little bit about something that I think it's quite crucial for the future of work, and I hope you join me. If you see this live and you join us, please give me some say hi to me in the comments, and also feel free to ask a lot of questions and give us feedback, because this is a nice topic. It's called Rediscovering Ourselves and Rediscovering Work. My name is Angelique Slop. I'm a future of work strategist. I have a background in human resources. I'm an organizational sociologist, and for the last 10 to 15 years, I've been involved in new ways of working and exploring the future of work. I am at this moment helping companies to get clarity about the next steps in the post-pandemic workplace. I think the new hybrid format that is kind of maybe stabilizing for companies is just the beginning. And this is one of the reasons I really want to get some attention for this topic. That is not a very clear concept yet. Also in my mind, I've been thinking about it and how we are affected um, with some developments. I'll just start how I came to this topic this week. So I am doing some video material interviewing my young friend, 24 years old, from the US. He graduated during the pandemic, and kind of, the first steps on the labor market were like in this kind of like still in lockdown, first steps post pandemic. And he got in quite a traditional environment. He was not feeling very well in that first year, and that has given him some insights. Let me show you that piece of that video, and then I will take it from there.
To do the work, but also to feel good about
Let me just go
how are we
back.
going to use the technology at our disposal to do the work, but also to feel good about the work and to feel good about the lives that we lead, that this work is a part of. You know, I don't want I don't want to see my work as something that I go and do because it's something that I have to go and make money for and then come back to my life. You know, I want my work to fit into my life, to make sense for my life, and the things that I want. You know, the things that I want to see in the world. Um,
So it's a short piece video series where we contemplate on the future of work, the expectations of Generation Z, and also what we think that is gonna, how companies can meet the expectations of Generation Z, and meet them where they are and bring them into a working environment. While I think there needs to be an adaptation from two sides, the generation that is exploring what they expect from companies, but they also have to bring their own expectations. So this is the context of that video. He said those things, and I triggered, and I showed this video to a few people, and they were like, well, your friend summarizing it for all of us. We all want work that fits into our life. What I didn't show in this video to you guys, but in answer to this part, I'm telling him about my first working environment, which was a toxic work environment. I didn't like the job. um, I was very unhappy. I was very unfree. I needed to clock my hours, and then I was already done at 4 in the afternoon, there till like 5 or 6, till I had my 8 hour shift finished. Um, but at that time, it was something that the attitude that was taught to me by my parents and society is, well, you have a permanent contract with an insurance company. It's a very good company, it's a very good employer. You have to be counting your blessings that you found this job and that you have this permanent contract. It basically was the expectation I needed to stay there till the rest of my work career. Well, I'm sitting here in Brazil talking to you about the future of work, so that obviously didn't happen. But it was the attitude, and I think what, even though that most of us have come to a place right now, and maybe it was long before pandemic. For example, for me, it was long before pandemic that I wanted to have my life, to work to fit around my life. I think it has been a development, especially in the last 10 years, enabled by technology. but it is something that has been shifting during the pandemic for a lot of people. So when the pandemic hit, I said, well, this will mean a shift in priorities. The employees will start to understand that the way they work, the place that work has in their life, and the meaning of work will, they will start rethinking it one way or the other, and that means that there will be a shift in the way we work, the workplace and the workforce. Um, so what I want to think about is that I said to someone when I showed this video, I said, well, it is the natural state of what we want and what we need at work as humans. But it seemed that my generation had unlearned that because of what society expected from us. And how many in during their career, one point in the career, and sometimes only after pension, would say, okay, I'm actually choosing me and my life and what is important for me and what I want, what I think is important in the world. I'm going to be choosing that over the normal structures in work. And those people, a lot of those people, standard is they became accountants. They started to leave corporate and do something else altogether. Started working, I don't know, in education or with NGOs. So you can see that always has been people that have been making that shift. Um, they unlearned something. This is a younger generation that doesn't really have to unlearn that because of their upbringing. They already come with another attitude than the older generations when they first entered the labor market. So when we look at Gen Z, they have that more natural idea about this is who I am and this is what I expect from life, this is what I expect from work, and I expect to find an employer that can give me that. Then we see other people, like a lot of employees who've been working in the standardized 8 to 5 without giving that a lot of thought. But during the pandemic, they were the ones that came um, um, to learn that they could also change, for example, the daily routine, spend more time with family, work in a different way, communicate in a different way. I think um, that is a shift that has been starting. And if we do not recognize that as such, we will be overwhelmed with hypes, media hyped things like the great resignation, quitting, the great breakup, but also less popular, less hyped developments such as secret digital nomads. We see a lot of people moving into this new kind of gaps between how companies organize themselves and what people want, and that is leading to people resigning, growing number of freelancers. I think in the US it's now 36% of the workforce is a freelancer. That is expected to grow up to 50%. There's a growing number of part-timers. In the Netherlands we have a big part-time population for many years. We see people looking into work where they can add value that has a higher meaning. We want to have more flexible hours. We want to be maybe working from home. Maybe we want to work from a different region. Maybe we want to of cities. So there is an undercurrent of people who start to rediscover what they actually want from work, who they are, and that is also reflecting on what they expect from work and how organizations, um, what organizations that can offer them. If there is a gap, it means that people will leave the company. And we can see that in specific demographics. For example, the great breakup is about a lot of women who don't feel that they are flexible enough to combine maybe with family time or with something else that gives them fulfillment in their life, but also lack of opportunities and lack of respect. So people are rediscovering what they need, who they are, what they need, and what they want from their employer. Of course, attracting new employees to replace those employees is going to be more difficult as well for those companies that are looking for ways to fulfill those needs, to give to be more adaptive to that new rediscovered workforce. And of course, the younger generation is more critical than ever. So I think it is extremely important to move away from operational solutions when it comes to attracting and retaining talent. For example, a lot of the solutions that people look into is like, how can we improve our onboarding process so we can retain talents? It is important to do so. It's important to have a very, very good onboarding process, especially in a hybrid work environment. But we have to go deeper. We have to say, okay, what is it actually that we as humans want? What is it that we as workers need? And how can we create organizations that are adapted to those needs so we can have the people to thrive? Because organization is nothing more than a group of people working towards the same goal. If you cannot find those people, because the people are not engaged, the people are not involved, the people are not thriving, it means that your organization is failing. So looking at that new question is, what do people actually, who are we as humans? And if we move beyond that industrial idea of resources, labor, people that are there 8 hours a day in certain times, going to a certain location, selling their time and their labor, that is an outdated idea. And the sad thing is that it is the system, the paradigm that we are brought up in. And we are always using that as the perspective, how we look at work. And there is that shift going on. I'm not sure how many people here have ever felt maybe trapped, maybe overwhelmed, stressed. I saw research the other day that 75% for the British workers, they have that's called the Sunday scaries. So it's another nice media hype name, talking about how people on Sunday nights get anxious and stressed about going back to work on Monday. Actually, there is even like 75% of young generation between 18 and 25 had that into a higher extent. Somebody compared to say like, that's the kind of anxiety that I have if I have to deliver a speech to a large group of people. Imagine having that to go through that every Sunday. I spoke to CEO who told me that he had a mother that of one of his younger employees who called him and said, "Well, my daughter is experiencing this all this pressure I laughed about it with him, but at the same time, we shouldn't be laughing about it because that is one example of what a whole generation of new workers is going through, is experiencing. If we look at people, how can we solve this? How can we go from having people adjusting to work, um, consequently at one point making choices? I don't want this anymore. Um, I think we might be nearing a tipping point as well. Like looking at those numbers, the demographics about people quitting their jobs, becoming freelancers, starting their own business, being half disengaged at work. Um, if you look at all those numbers, there might be a tipping point. Also, like the lack of the big number of vacancies there. People are like companies are struggling to find talents or to retain talents, new talents leaving in 6 to 8 months, which is such a costly thing. I think I think it's a problem that is large enough to be addressed seriously and not just by one person or one company. And the message here today is, let's look at what we need as humans with how we are in this process of rediscovering ourselves. Just have a sip of coffee. If there's anybody who wants to reflect on this with me. So what we need as humans is joy, creativity, freedom, connection, and growth. So these are 5 things that are essential for people. With freedom, we can also use autonomy. So and I think companies would be able to connect to their employees with an attitude to bring those elements into the workplace and keep on investing in people, and also go on this journey of rediscovering who we are, what we want, like as people, as humans, um, coming together to co-create is an amazing thing to do. Work can be and should be an amazing experience that gives us fulfillment, that brings us growth, that gives us joy, that gives us connection. And people are craving that. And somehow the pandemic has created that shift, that is below everything else, and it's an undercurrent. And looking at just what my friend said, the things that he expected from work, it is he is summarizing it for all of us. So now most companies are working on their people strategies for the next year, where people are maybe having debates, heated debates about should people come back to the office, should we force them to come to the office, should we create different kind of policies, should we start to um, look at our office space because we see that we are we extended our lease, but there's no one there. Should we get rid of the office space because of that? So there might be a lot of questions and debates. How can we attract talents? How can we meet the, the needs of people that were here pre-pandemic, and they have this kind of like longing to go back to that older times because they are looking back to the connection that they had when they were co-located, and also looking at the needs of younger generations and new employees that bring a different kind of expectation. You might have a lot of that discussion going on. Just think about the things that people need and decide to go on a journey of rediscovering who we are, who your organization is, what people really want, and then rediscover work. I wouldn't be surprised if you have to make in the next years to have to make fundamental changes, also in the nature of work and the nature even of the business that you have, the business that you're in. Um, Rediscovering yourselves, rediscovering ourselves means that we will be rediscovering work. It is a tendency that we can't stop, and if you're not on top of it, if you don't go with the flow, if you don't meet that, you will fall behind. So I hope that was something that you can recognize, maybe from your own personal experience, maybe from the people around you. I bet you do, and I want to invite you to share some ideas with me, about how that actually works for you, what's your journey, and also how you bring that back to your organization. Do you see this happening on a larger scale? Do you see that there are debates, and do you have some good examples and best practices of companies that are on that journey of meeting those new needs and rediscovering, um, work by rediscovering ourselves? Thank you so much for your attention. I'm wishing you a really good day today. Bye.